Good day and thank you for joining us in BeeTv News at 12. I am Libri Manjurana. Now the news in details. In alignment with the Edo State Government Directive on monthly environmental sanitation, the Executive Chairman of Umweda Local Government Area, Honorable Austin Rotimi Imafidon, today led the first monthly environmental
The exercise, which marked the beginning of a renewed commitment to a cleaner and healthier environment in Nwode, was primarily geared towards educating residents on the importance of sanitation and environmental hygiene. The chairman assured the public that while this month's exercise focuses on movement in line with sanitation rules, ensuring smooth and execution of the exercise in the area.
We are here to sanitize our people and tell them needs for sanitization, need to clean their environment to avoid disease. So when we come back again next time, we are going to enforce it. So we've told them every last Saturday of the month is environmental sanitation, and every law-abiding citizen of this country must obey. So whoever don't obey, they will be arrested next time.
has the solution the executive arm and all political appointees of the local governments with immediate effect. A statement signed by the acting chairman says that the Honorable Eribo deeply appreciates the dedication, loyalty and services the former appointees rendered during their tenure. He said their contributions have been invaluable to the growth and progress of Ego local government. The statement says all council properties in their possession had to be handed over without delay to the appropriate head of department or were unavailable to the highest ranking council staff of the department. He extended his sincerely and heartfelt gratitude to them for their commitment and wished them success in their future endeavors. Nigerians may face tougher days ahead as a nationwide strike declared by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, beginning from today Monday, threatens to unleash a twin blow of soaring petrol prices and widespread electricity black. The union's directive to halt crude oil and gas supplies to the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has sent shockwaves through the energy sector, with oil marketers warning of severe disruptions in fuel distribution. This move is expected to choke the domestic market, driving up demands and prices. Compounding the crisis, power generation companies have announced a complete shutdown of all thermal plants, a direct fallout of the strike. With thermal stations producing more than 70% of Nigeria's power supply, the development threatens to plunge the nation into darkness, crippling economic activities and plunging millions of households and businesses into deeper strain unless the federal government intervenes. On Sunday, Pegasus announced a nationwide strike instructing all its members in various offices, companies, institutions, and agencies to cease all services starting from 12 a.m. on Monday, September 29, 2025. The union also directed members stationed in various feed locations to down tools from 6 a.m. on Sunday, September 28, and commence around the clock prayer vigil. The emergency decision followed the sack of over 800 Nigerian workers at the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. In a strongly worded resolution signed by Pegasus General Secretary Lumbak Okubawa, the union accused the refinery of violating Nigerian labor laws and international labor organization conventions by sacking workers for joining the union. It alleged the dismissed workers have been replaced by foreigners. At least one person has been killed and 9 others wounded after a gunman drove a vehicle into a Mormon church in Michigan and opened fire, police says. Officials said the attack on Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, a town 60 miles 96 kilometers northwest of Detroit, happening during a Sunday service that attracts hundreds of people. BeeTv News Harmony Agbafo has details.
The suspect of a 40-year-old male allegedly also set part of the building on fire, which has since been contained. Officials warned they may discover additional victims when it was safe to enter the building. The alleged shooter was shot dead by police. Authorities said there was no ongoing threat to the public. Grand Blanc Township Police Chief William Renier told reporters that hundreds of people were attending services at about 10:25 local time when a gunman drove a vehicle into the building. The attacker then opened fire with an assault-style rifle, firing several rounds at the individual within the church. Chief Renier said the police responded immediately to the scene. He said adding officers engaged in gunfire with a particular individual, neutralizing that suspect. 9 people suffered gunshot wounds and are being treated in hospitals, and some of the victims are in critical condition.
So from what I understand, and again, this is just a preliminary,
had been briefed on the shooting and confirmed the FBI will be leading the federal investigation. Writing on Truth Social, he described it as yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a post on X that she had received briefings on what appears to be a horrific shooting and fire at the church.
As more.
Iran suspended inspections of its nuclear facilities, a legal obligation under the terms of the 2015 deal, after Israel and the U.S. bombed several of its nuclear sites and military bases in June. Its president, Masoud Pezeshkian, insisted last week that the country had no intention of developing nuclear weapons. The reintroduction of sanctions, which Pezeshkian described as unfair, unjust and illegal, is the latest blow to a deal that was rated as a turning point in the Western relations with the long ostracized Islamist nation when it was first struck. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action places limits on Iran's nuclear installation, its stockpiles of enriched uranium, and the amount of research and development it can undertake. It aims to allow Iran to develop its nuclear power infrastructure without straying into making nuclear weaponry. Iran stepped up its banned nuclear activities after Donald
Many of the projectiles were aimed, and the victims including a 12-year-old girl. The barrage involving nearly 600 drones and several dozen missiles aimed at 7 regions of Ukraine is one of the heaviest in recent months, the reports.
Zelensky warned that Ukraine would retaliate and said the vile attack showed Moscow wants to continue fighting and killing. Russia said it struck military facilities and industrial enterprises supporting Ukraine. The sound of anti-aircraft fire was punctuated with occasional explosions, presumably either from the sound of an intercepted drone or one hitting its targets. In Kyiv, the country's air alert app urged people to head to shelters and stay there. They were followed by pings warnings of an increased aerial threat as hundreds of drones descended on the city. Ukraine's Defense Minister Igor Klimenko said that at least 100 civilian sites had been damaged across the country by the attack, with entire neighborhoods, nurses and the patients. A large bakery and automobile rubber factory, as well as apartment buildings and civilian infrastructure.
People attempted the journey in one boat. Figures from the Home Office showed 895 migrants crossed the channel in 12 boats on Saturday, while around 33,000 people have done so since the start of 2025. It comes after another migrant died during trying to cross the channel, with a body found on Sunday morning on a beach near Boulogne-sur-Mer in northern France, according to the AFP news agency. The age and nationality of the person are not yet known, with French media reporting they were a young adult. An investigation will determine whether there is a link between the latest death and an attempted crossing near Equiham-Plague, a little further north from Boulogne-sur-Mer. The Port Town prosecutor Cecile Gressels told AFP There was a 49-year-old woman who was found suffering from hypothermia and was taken to the hospital. 2 Somali women also died when their makeshift boat got into a difficulty on Saturday, with a number of deaths from illegal crossing attempts between France and the UK this year now at least 27. On Saturday morning, the many attempted crossing on the makeshift boats, thanks to the favorable weather, 14 required emergency services. The Maritime Prefecture of the Channel and North Sea Perma says in a press release, despite the steady increase in French resources to prevent perilous crossing, with substantial financial support from the UK, there are no signs the attempts are slowing down. The UK government has come under increased pressure over the number of small boats crossing an asylum seekers application, with more than 50,000 people making the journey since Labour came into power in July 2024. A U.S. citizen held by the Taliban in Afghanistan for 9 months has been released following the negotiations led by Qatari mediators. Officials say the man, identified as Amir Amiril, is the 5th American to be freed from detention in Afghanistan this year. He was on his way back to the U.S. on Sunday. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio thanked Qatar for its tireless diplomatic efforts, which he said was crucial in securing Mr. Amir's release. The reason for Mr. Amir's detention remains unclear. Rubio said that he had been wrongfully detained. The Secretary of State added that more U.S. citizens remain unjustly detained in Afghanistan and that the Trump administration was working on securing their release. Qatar's foreign ministry said it has facilitated the release of Mr. Amir and he was on his way to Doha before traveling to the U.S. Qatar began negotiating Mr. Amir's release in March 1st, arranging a meeting between Mr. Amir and U.S. hostage envoy Adam Boehler. Sources told CBN News, the BBC U.S. partner. A breakthrough in negotiations was reached this weekend, sources told CBS, which led to Mr. Amir's release. It comes after 2 American citizens were freed in a prisoner swap between the U.S. and Taliban in January. One of the detainees, Ryan Corbett, was adopted in 2022 while on a work trip. The U.S. released Karen Mohammed, a Taliban figure who was in prison for life in California on drug trafficking and terrorism charges in exchange, the Associated Press reported. Oregon has sued Donald Trump administration over plans to deploy troops. The National Guard will be deployed to Portland, Oregon for the next 2 months, following an order by U.S. President Donald Trump. At least 200 National Guard members will be deployed to the city to protect federal property where protests are occurring or likely to occur, according to a memo sent by the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Sunday, the reports.
Trump on Saturday said he had authorized the use of full force if needed to suppress protests targeting immigration detention centers. Deployment of the National Guard to Portland is unlawful. The lawsuit filed on Sunday by Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield called the move provocative and arbitrary and said it threatened to undermine public safety by inciting a public outcry. The deployment marks a Trump's assertion that Portland needed federal intervention. There is no national security threat in Portland. Our communities are safe and calm, said Oregon Governor Tina Kotek on Saturday.
Every night there's tons of protesters basically being vagrants on the street. The people that live in all these buildings right here have hell to go through. They are making noise constantly, even when nobody from ICE is out.
The Immigration and Custom Enforcement ICE facility in Portland has been targeted by protesters since early June, sometimes leading to violent clashes. As of 8 September, the U.S. Attorney's Office had brought federal charges against 26 people for crimes including arson, assaulting a police officer, and resisting arrest.
South Africa's top tourist attractions, known for its vast salt pan that can be seen from space. It is also home to critically endangered black rhinos. Esoe Osemige has more.
The country's Environment Ministry believes the fire broke out on Monday at a charcoal production outside the park's borders. Almost a week on, it has spread into park, killing at least 9 antelopes and destroying wildlife habitat, as well as grazing pasture in the Omo, Sati, and Oshana regions bordering Angola. Opposition MP Likando Roderick recently criticized the government for failing to contain the fire, saying they should have been better prepared and urging them to beef up their long-term response measures. At an emergency meeting on Saturday, it was decided to send 500 more troops to help firefighters, police and volunteers on the ground, Prime Minister Tituga Elijah Ngurare said on X. Covering a total of 22,935 square kilometers, Etosha National Park is one of the largest in Africa. Some 200,000 tourists visit the nature reserve every
quality hospitals, schools, jobs for our youth, then you must understand this simple truth. Government cannot perform without your tax. Government will fix schools, build roads, light up communities if the people pay their tax. That's how governance works. It is not about politics. It is about
per dollar. External reserve rose to $42.23 billion from $42.3 billion, representing a 0.47% increase, boosting the CBN's capacity to support the foreign exchange market. The Monetary Policy Committee recently cut the benchmark rate by 50 basis points, a move expected to ease financing pressure on the real sector. Analysts project lower yields in the fixed income market and improved sentiment for equities as the macroeconomic outlook stabilizes. The Central Bank of Nigeria has introduced a 75% cash reserve ratio on non-treasury single account public sector deposits, a move aimed at curbing excess liquidity in the financial system. The directive targets state and local government funds held with deposit money banks, which typically swell for